Hi everyone, I'm Invisible Crane, and it's time for another rant. This time I'm going to rant about something that the spoony one called selective amnesia, or as what I like to call it, the Highlander 2 treatment. Now what exactly is the Highlander 2 treatment? Well, basically, we have to go back to the early 90s here, people, to explain it. There was a movie that was released back then called Highlander 2: The Quickening. It was the sequel to the first Highlander movie from the mid-1980s, which was already a cult classic. And Highlander 2 was, I don't know how anticipated the movie was, but when it came out, it proved to be such a disappointment and such a horrible movie that by the time when they came to make Highlander 3, the studio decided to just ignore Highlander 2 completely. Basically treat it like it never happened. Sweep it under the rug, if you will. And let me just say, when a studio does something like that, you know that a movie is horrible. Anyway, I don't know if Highlander 2 was the first time this sort of thing happened, but if not, it certainly is one of the more prolific examples. I can think of many others, like the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Fanboys still whine, bitch, and moan about the prequel trilogy. Look, maybe the movies were a disappointment. I admit that, looking back at them now, but personally I think Revenge of the Sith wasn't really that bad. But, to be honest, they treat the Star Wars prequel trilogy like it was the worst things that could ever happen to sci-fi movies. And basically go out of their way to treat them like they don't exist because of stuff like midichlorians. Why can't they just get over it? I mean, no matter what you do, the prequel trilogy is still going to be there, and the kids who like Star Wars probably don't care about that sort of thing. They probably don't care that these movies suck. They still enjoy them. Another example I can think of is Superman Returns. Now, when that movie came out, it was decided that they were going to follow up from Superman 1 and Superman 2 and ignore Superman 3 and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Now, why? Because Superman 3 was a disappointment, and Superman 4 was such a terrible movie. But then again, Superman 4 was terrible because Canon Films didn't give it good enough treatment or stuff like that. But then again, Canon Films did give us Chuck Norris movies. But I digress. Or I'm going off topic, whatever works better. That's really all the examples I can think of when it comes to movies. There are many other examples in other fields of entertainment. Like comics, for example. Spider-Man One More Day is probably the best example of something that's been given the Highlander 2 treatment. Seriously, comic book fans, get over it. Marvel made their decision and they're sticking to it. Of course, with comics, there's always the possibility to change that, and that tends to happen all the time. But right now, just learn to accept it, okay? And also, when it comes to music, well, the only example that comes to my head is Chinese Democracy, the recent Guns N' Roses album. A lot of people really hated that album just because it didn't have Slash on it or any of the other Guns N' Roses members except for Axl Rose. Look, you music fans waited for this album for so long, then all of a sudden once it comes out, you basically want to sweep it under the rug? God, you're so fickle. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, I think the Highlander 2 treatment is stupid. It only really works if a studio or anything behind something decides to do it. Not if a fan decides, oh, I'm going to ignore this because it sucked. Get a grip, will ya? That's all I gotta say on that. Anyway, that's me for now. See y'all later, people.